Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
This the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Program.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF world champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 216 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman, the first episode of the podcast in December. Here we are. I am of course Joey Coastman. Like I say, I'm joined as always by the infamous, the elusive, the festive feeling Mr. Sumra. Sumra, how's it going?
I'm good, Joe. Yourself?
Very good, my friend. Very good. Let's dive straight into the review part. Obviously, it's Anthony Joshua, Andy Ruiz fight week. So this podcast, I'm guessing, is probably going to be quite lengthy. I'm not quite sure how long, at this actual time, but let's try to go through the little subjects as quick as possible. Let's start with the review part in Brisbane, in South Brisbane, at the Brisbane Convention and Exhibition Centre in Queensland, Australia. Over here, Anthony Mundine, he actually lost a split decision over 10 rounds to John Wayne Parr, a guy who only had a record of 10-3. Now, of course, 11-3. Anthony Mundine, he retired straight after the fight. He was knocked down in the fourth round. I think he had a point took off as well later on in the fight for hitting his opponent, John Wayne Parr, in the back of the head. Anthony Mundine finally hangs up the gloves. His record ends at 48 wins and 10 losses. A real example of a guy that hung around very, very long in the sport. Moving out now to Vabalava in Estonia. Just one fight to mention, really. Heavyweight Robert Helenius returned with a knockout win in 2 rounds against Matthias Osorio, now 9-5. A bit of a mismatch there on paper. Robert Helenius now 29-3. Moving out now to the Monaco show at the Casino de Monte Carlo. Let's start with the main event over here. Alexander Besputin, 13-0, now 14-0. It was a unanimous decision for him over 12 rounds against Radzab Butayev, who's now 12-1. Again, I said it on last week's show, both men were real good amateurs. It was for the vacant WBA World Welterweight title and the vacant Eurasian Boxing Parliament Welterweight title. Throw that one in there as well. I'm not quite sure really how both men, amongst all those names that you've got at welterweight, the likes of, I'm starting in Britain here, so don't jump down my throat straight away, but, Amir Khan, Kell Brook, going in the States, you've got the likes of, what are the other guys that don't hold belts? So Sean Porter hasn't got a belt at the minute, obviously lost to Spence. You've got so many guys in the welterweight division. Danny Garcia, I don't think he holds a belt at the minute. Jose Benavidez Jr. There's tons and tons and tons of names. Egis Kavalauskas, all these guys. There's tons. David Avanesian. There's names all over the place that are real established pros. And I've got no idea how these guys who, were great amateurs, they turned over. They've only had 12 fights and 13 fights each. And they've managed to wiggle their way into a title, so they're now a champion, one of the belts with the WBA, the regular, I believe it is. So I'm not quite sure how they've managed to do that, but now they're going to be on the radar for these massive names that we've got at 147. So lots and lots of big fighters will be wanting those fights, I'd imagine, just to pick up a belt. But they're good fighters there, especially Alexander Besputin, who managed to win, in my opinion, quite wide. It was 8-4 on all 3 judges' scorecards. For once, all judges actually had it exactly the same. We don't get to see that too much in boxing. Moving down that undercard, Cecilia Brackhouse moved to 36-0, a defence of her WBC, WBA, IBF, IBO and WBO World Female Welterweight titles. She was able to beat Victoria Bustos, a very tough lady. I didn't expect Brackhouse to get her out of there, and she didn't. It was, like I say, unanimous over 10 2-minute rounds, quite wide on the cards as well. Bustos now 19-6, former opponent of Katie Taylor. Again, I think she had to move up maybe 1 or 2 weight classes, so it was always, against her, really. Also on the bill, Joe Cordina took on Mario Enrique Tinoco, the guy that was able to beat Jordan Gill. Joe Cordina really showed his class in there. It was for the vacant WBA Continental Super Featherweight title. Joe Cordina, he has got that, that pedigree that Jordan Gill doesn't have. And I criticised Jordan Gill a tiny bit because he had loads and loads of fights. He managed to build his record up without really having a proper test. And I think he may have just had one. I can't remember who it was now. He had one test. Was it against... I always forget this guy's name, but it was against the guy that knocked out Ruiz Bellotti. That guy. I forgot his name. Always forget his name on the podcast. Terrible of me. But anyway, he knocked out Ruiz Bellotti, and then Jordan Gill stopped him. I think it was at the Copperbox, and that one I believe was for the Commonwealth title. But anyways, that was his real test, and then he took on Tinoco. Not really the fights that we wanted to see him in, and he ended up getting found out there. But yeah, Joe Cordina a bit of a level above, to be honest. Like I say, got that pedigree, got the win, and in good fashion. 11-0 now. Tough fight though. I'm sure he'll learn a lot from that and improve. Also on that bill, Zhilei Zhang, the Olympic silver medalist, the 6'6" Chinese southpaw, now 21-0. It was a unanimous decision over 10 rounds against Andrei Rudenko, now 32-5. Zhilei Zhang, he's been extremely inactive. He's getting up there in age. I think he's 36 or 37. He needs to get moving. That one was for the WBO Oriental heavyweight title. Not quite sure how Rudenko was able to fight for that one. Obviously, Hughie Fury was supposed to be on the bill, then his fight fell through. I couldn't believe that, to be honest. I know he was sat there ringside for the fights, but he should have just gone in the ring unless something was physically really wrong with him, that he couldn't stand up for 36 minutes like he had the runs or something. Why didn't he fight the guy? He would have beaten the guy he was boxing with both arms tied behind his back. The guy was absolutely dreadful. But anyway, he didn't fight. Moving out now to the York Hall in Bethnal Green, London, United Kingdom. Over here, Liam Dillon 9-0 against Yusuf Kamari 10-0. Again, I said it on last week's show, lots and lots of undefeated fighters were getting it on. It seems like it's been a thing of late. Lots of people's O's are being lost, and it was for the vacant English super featherweight title. Unbelievably, the title's still vacant because it went down as a split draw over 10 rounds there. So both men still got that O in terms of their losses. They've got one though on the draw sector. Also on the bill, Echo Esserman, good amateur. I think he got a win over Ted Cheeseman in the amateurs. Good fighter, undefeated pro, the English welterweight champion. He was able to defend the belt once again against Curtis Felix Jr., who was 10-0 undefeated. Now he's been given that one loss. It was a TKO in round 8 there for Echo Esserman, now 13-0. On the undercard, we also got to see Linus Udofia, 14-0, now 15-0. It was a majority decision over 10 rounds against Tyler Denny, now 12-2 with 2 draws. That one was for the vacant English middleweight title. Linus Udofia, I remember watching him take on, I think his name's Eric Nwankwo. He is a guy that knocked out William Webber. I think he knocked him out. He beat William Webber anyway, took his O, and he came over from some part of Africa. He didn't tell his family that he was boxing, and all of a sudden, I think it was on Sky Sports, and he was basically saying, "Hi Mum, hi Dad." I think he came over to study or something like that, and found himself in a boxing gym. Next thing you know, he's beating, a good amateur in William Webber who turned pro. Anyway, that was a good win there, but since then, I think he's lost every fight, this guy, Eric Nwankwo. But one of his losses came to Linus Udofia, and I was sat there at York Hall, and I saw him put in a little bit of I won't say a beating on Udofia, but he was giving Udofia some real problems in the early rounds. He was beating him clearly in the rounds, and then he seemed to run out of gas, and Linus Udofia got the win. It seemed like his gas tank was his biggest asset in that fight, or perhaps not his biggest asset, but Nwankwo's biggest weakness. He fades real quick, and that just kind of told me I don't think Udofia's gonna be as great as what a lot of people in the small hall shows were telling me. You know, they were saying, "Oh, this guy's one to watch." When I saw him have real problems with Eric Nwankwo, I thought to myself, not quite sure. And he's got a majority decision win, a real close fight there over Tyler Denny. You know, and I don't think Tyler Denny's all that great, to be honest. So, just being completely honest, I'm sure Udofia, if he ends up hearing this, I'm sure he'll get a bit of extra motivation going forward. He may. You know, I'm not saying I'm always right. I'm just saying what I thought that one night against Nwankwo could have been an off night, but we shall see. He's still undefeated. He's doing very well at the minute, 15-0, the new English middleweight champion. Moving out now, though, to the Arena Birmingham in Birmingham, of course, West Midlands, United Kingdom, starting with the main event, Ayaz. Zolani Tete, big favourite on paper, 28-3. Obviously, we didn't get to see the fights that we wanted to see him in of recent times. We wanted somehow to see him in with Ryan Burnett. That's now never going to happen. We wanted to see him in I think it's the semi-finals against Nonito Donaire, and then he pulled out. I think it was on fight week. So he hasn't been in the big fights. You know, he's been very unfortunate with stuff. And here he is. He got in there against John Real Casimero, a guy we knew well, a guy that knocked out Charlie Edwards on that Brook Golovkin undercard, and Casimero, you know, he come back over here and he's 2-0 with 2 KOs. 3 rounds it took him to get rid of Tete, and like I say, a real big shock. He's the new WBO World Bantamweight champion. I think Casimero's a world champion in 3 or 4 weights now, which is incredible. But just tell me about the fight. Twice Tete was down in that 3rd round.
Yes, I thought Tete was going to win this fight. Obviously, he's the champion and he was going to be the favourite. Obviously, Tete in the first, Casemiro had him from the 1st round. 2nd round, obviously in the 3rd round, obviously hit him with that shot, dropped him on the floor. Where does Tete go from here? I think personally for Tete, I think he should go back, rejuvenate his career, and hopefully come back again. But I think with Tete, obviously, it's due to the fact that he's had really injuries. What it was, I think he went into a Casemiro fight straight away after a long period out of time, and I think that was the reason why he lost his fight. I think what he should have done, had like a good 10-rounder fight with like a nobody, and then fought somebody else. He went into a Casemiro fight, which I think Casemiro is a very good fighter. Obviously, we saw him and destroy Charlie Edwards, and I think Tete made a mistake not fighting Casemiro straight away. I think he should have fought he should have had a step-up fight and then fought Casemiro.
Yeah, that's a fair point, to be honest, because he was coming off over a year out the ring, and you know he hadn't lost a fight since 2012, so 7 years undefeated. Tete. Yeah, you're probably right there, actually, Ayaz, in hindsight. That's a good point there. But yeah, I was shocked. I mean, it seemed like he got caught on the temple and he never really recovered. The first knockdown was just really weird, you know, because he got hit and then all of a sudden he kind of stood in front of Casemiro sideways on, and Casemiro just, you know, threw shots in the side of the head, you know, the chin. He completely just smothered him real quick, boom, 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 and then on his knees, or on the floor, I should say, on the seat of his pants was Tete. Moving down that undercard though, well, just quickly before actually we get onto the undercard, someone was talking to me on Twitter about the Tete fight, and they said, you know, he's not to blame, Frank Warren's to blame, and I was basically saying, you know, he's based in South Africa, this guy. He's had the big opportunity with the World Boxing Super Series. Yeah, he won the quarterfinal, but then he fell straight out when it come to the semis. He didn't get to fight Ryan Burnett. He's been extremely inactive. He's had the injuries. He's getting up there in age. I think that's it, actually. Ayaz, I know that you said he needs to kind of, you know, find himself again. He needs to rejuvenate. I think that's it for him. I honestly think he goes back to South Africa. I don't think anyone's going to want to give him a chance really at that weight because he's so big for the weight. He's a bit of a danger man. You know, he's in the Who Needs Him club. People didn't really want to fight him anyway when he had a belt. So now he hasn't got a belt. I think that's it. You know, it's going to be tough for him to come back. I wouldn't be surprised if Frank Warren ends up, you know, parting ways with him. If that hasn't already happened as we're speaking, it may have been a few fights on a deal or whatever. It could have been a fight-by-fight thing because, again, he's not a big name. I can't see Eddie Hearn wanting to rival Frank Warren and try and sign him as well, you know. He's a guy that's probably just going to disappear, sadly. But it happens. It happens a lot to the African boxers especially. On that undercard, once again, Sam Bowen, the British champion, went into the bout with a record of 15-0, and he had his O taken as well. Anthony Kakachi now 18-1. Bowen, of course, had a point deducted for use of his head in round 5. It was for, like I say, Bowen's British title. Now Kakachi has taken the belt from him. A very questionable scorecard from Terry O'Connor once again. I think that's a couple weeks in a row now. He gave it to Sam Bowen by 3, but the other two judges, Howard Foster and Steve Gray, saw it the other way. So a split decision win there, over 12 rounds for Kakachi, the challenger. Not many people thought that Kakachi'd win that fight. I know that Archie Sharp had been saying to me for a while that he felt Kakachi would give him all he's got. You know, he could give him loads of problems, and I think he was quietly siding with him as well. And he did the job, you know, and he looked real good. Everything that Sam Bowen did, you know, he kept coming forward. There wasn't really any science to his work. There wasn't really, I feel, any respect for Kakachi's power. He just felt he could walk through him. And I feel like Sam Bowen has been doing that for a few fights now. You know, he's got that kind of bullish style. And I don't want to, I mean, dare I say he's been a little bit one-dimensional in his fights of recent times, where he's just been walking forward, trying to walk people down. He's of course got the power and the strength. There's no kidding about that. But yeah, he was just a little bit too cute for him, Kakachi, and he ended up getting the points win. So credit to him. And of course, just like that, Bowen loses his O. He loses his British title, and he probably loses the fight against Zelfa Barrett, which would have been a big all-domestic fight, or Archie Sharp. You know, I don't think Archie Sharp's interested in Sam Bowen now. Why would you be? So yeah, tough stuff there for Sam Bowen. Hopefully he comes back again. I think he's a real good fighter. I'd like to see a rematch, to be honest. I'm sure he would too. Also on the bill, Chris Jenkins, 22-3 with 3 draws. It was a technical draw after 4 rounds against Liam Taylor. 21-1 with 1 draw. This one was for the Commonwealth and British welterweight titles. Now, this was real controversial. Jenkins was down early in the second round, and he was cut on his left eyebrow, which was from an accidental head clash. And then, like I say, the doctors came in and called the fight off. It went down as a technical draw. But I think there was something like 10 seconds left in the round, and if that 10 seconds would have passed and they would have gone back to the corner, then it would have been too late for a technical draw to happen. So it would have gone down. You know, it would have gone down as a technical decision. It would have gone straight to the cards. And Liam Taylor, especially with his knockdown, had definitely, you know, been in the driving seat in the fight, and he would have probably ended up with the win. So I feel bad there for Liam Taylor. Hopefully a rematch can happen. Chris Jenkins, a guy that's really stepped up in levels since getting the shot, actually, for the British title, and his defences have been great. So I think he's the type of fighter who'd say, do you know what, I had a little toe dip there of what it's like to take on Liam Taylor, and yeah, I didn't fight my best. Hopefully when the cut heals we can get it on again. That's the kind of thing I believe Chris Jenkins will be thinking, and a true champion would do that, so hopefully he does. Also on that bill, Shabazz Massoud moved to 7-0, a points win for him over 6 rounds against Stefan Nikolai, now 3-20 with a draw. Hamza Shiraz looked really good. He's a fighter I've been watching since he was about 1-0 or 2-0, and I thought, man, oh man, he's huge for the weight, but he can really box, you know. And I've just been a bit of a believer in him. He's now 10-0, like I say, a TKO for him in 6 rounds against Ryan Kelly, now 14-3. That one was for the vacant WBO European Super Welterweight title. Sammy Maxwell moved to 13-0. His one was also for the WBO European Super Lightweight title. He took on Connor Parker, who was undefeated. His O's been taken, now 12-1, a TKO for Sammy Maxwell in 7 rounds. And of course, the main event, I believe it was, Lerone Richards, now 13-0. It was a split decision over 12 rounds for him against Lennox Clark, who is now 19-1 with a draw. He had his O taken as well. It was for the Commonwealth title, of course, which Lerone Richards, I think, beat. Who did he beat for that one? It was the guy that from Birmingham, the guy that Kurt Sidzi knocked out. Tommy, Oh, man. Former British champion. What was his name, Ayaz? Was it Tommy something? He's been on this show before. The guy that Eubank...
I'm not quite sure.
The guy that Chris Eubank Jr. didn't want to defend against, so he vacated the British. I've totally forgot his name. Lerone Richards boxed him, literally. I think it was his last fight before this one. What's his name? Tommy Langford. Yeah. That's good that that's over. Anyway, yeah, Lennox Clark, again, just kept wanting to try and come forward. And to be honest, I don't think he could have done much different. Lerone Richards is massive for super middle, and he can really box. He's a tricky guy. Not the most entertaining fighter to watch, and he's just got a very difficult style to look good against, and it's hard to have success against him. He's not the type of guy that would get dragged into a war. He's the type of guy that is completely fine with letting it be boring as long as he's winning easy. It wasn't that easy because, Lennox Clark, I felt, came on quite strong actually in the last couple rounds. And there was a few moments where I think Richards took some big shots. But all in all, a good performance from Richards and another learning fight. And the final fight to mention on that bill, Dennis McCann, now 5-0. Another knockout for him. A second round knockout against Stefan Slavchev, now 10-37. With 2 draws. Right, that's it for that one. Moving out now to the Cosmopolitan of Las Vegas in Las Vegas, Nevada, USA. This one was quite a shock. It wasn't shown on the UK telecast, so I haven't actually seen it. But this one was a huge shock for me. It was for the interim WBO World Super Welterweight title. Carlos Adames, I think he's from the Dominican Republic. I'm sure he's the guy that has got about 45 siblings. Now, 18-1. He was actually on the bad end of a unanimous decision there for Brazilian Patrick Teixeira, now 31-1. I think Teixeira lost the fight early on to someone, but I didn't ever really rate him after that. I felt like he was a bit padded, and he wouldn't be able to mess with Carlos Adames, a guy that I think is quality actually. And Adames was on the seat of his pants in round 7, and like I say, he lost unanimously. The right man got the decision. I cannot believe it. When I saw that result, I was like, wow. I really thought Adames was certainly going to be a future world champion. Perhaps it's not too late though. But yeah, brilliant win there for Teixeira. Brilliant stuff for Brazilian boxing. Also on the card, Oscar Valdez, my guy I was trying to get on the show. Oh boy, so much last week. It was crazy what I tried to do to get him on the show, and didn't end up getting him on. And his opponent, of course, came in. I don't know what was on his mind. He came in and he ended up being 11 pounds overweight. So they had to fly in at last minute. I think they flew him in. Adam Lopez. So literally the guy had 1 day's notice for the fight. He turned up at the weigh-in. He was on weight. I'm not sure if it was at the weight he wanted to be at. I'm not sure if it was at his natural weight. I can't remember now. But anyway, both men weighed in. And, that was it. Yeah, it was supposed to be a super featherweight contest. But Oscar Valdez came in 129.5. So just half a pound underneath 130. And Adam Lopez came in at 126. So he literally came in bang on featherweight because he is a featherweight fighter. So Oscar Valdez, a 3.5 pound weight advantage there. And the fact that Lopez had 1 day's notice for the fight, that was enough for me to say, wow, Valdez is going to knock him out within the first few rounds, maybe round 6 at the very worst. So there's me going and putting a bet on for round 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 for the stoppage, and then he ends up getting it in round 7. But Valdez himself was down in round 2, and Lopez, for me, pretty much won probably every round. He was absolutely brilliant, Adam Lopez, and Oscar Valdez managed to pull it out the bag in round 7. But for me, I think his days are numbered now. I'm not sure why he's moving up to 130. He's got a high world ranking, of course, with a WBO. They're talking about Miguel Berchelt. He'd be way too big for Valdez. But, Valdez is another guy that was a good amateur. And since he's turned pro, since he's won a world title, stuff like that, he's turned into that kind of bullish style again. He's just trying to knock everyone out, and he gets caught quite a lot. He's been down a few times, and to go down by this guy here under the circumstances is quite embarrassing. But anyway, I do like Oscar Valdez despite all the the hoops I had to jump through last week and not even get the interview, but it is what it is. Also on the bill, Arnold Barboza Jr. now 23-0, a KO for him in 5 rounds against William Silva, now 27-3. That one was for the NABF Junior Super Lightweight title. And also, of course, Carl Frampton, the Jackal, now 27-2. It was a unanimous decision for him over 10 rounds against Tyler McCreary. Again, Tyler McCreary, I think they might have pulled him down a weight class or something like that. And I think there was a catch weight. It was at 128, something like that. Tyler McCreary, as I said, very, very big for to make that weight. But yeah, not that good. A bit limited, to be honest. And Carl Frampton was able to win that quite wide. I think he dropped McCreary as well, maybe once or twice. Yeah, quite one-sided. I even zoned out a few times. Again, Carl Frampton, talking about Jamel Herring. He's another guy, Carl Frampton, that is absolutely tiny next to Jamel Herring. We saw Jamel Herring get in the ring. He's huge next to Carl Frampton. So that one perhaps will be happening next. I think they're talking of St. Patrick's Day. We shall wait and see. But that is everything, though, for the review part of the show. Just before we wrap up part 1, the final thing to do is to welcome our very first guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the top middleweight contender. It is, of course, Mr. Alantez Fox. Alantez, welcome back on the show, my man.
Yes, sir. It's a pleasure to be back. I'm ready.
Ready. So we last spoke back in June. Obviously, it was just after the Nick Brinson win, I believe it was. And of course, since then, you've had the one fight, a wide points win over Bruno Romay back in October. Just quickly, for those that haven't seen it, how did that one go for you, Alantez?
So I put him down with a body shot in the first round. And, really, I just kind of dominated in the whole fight. Besides I think the third or fourth round, I got caught with a shot that, it looked a lot worse than it felt to me. But, I got caught with that shot. Other than that right there, I felt like I dominated with the dominant performance, and I didn't think it was definitely like a flawless victory.
And like I say, you've wanted a big fight for a long time now. I'm pretty sure last time we spoke, you called Liam Williams out. It didn't look like the fight would actually happen, though. But now it is on. I bet you're over the moon that it's on, Alantez.
I'm definitely excited about this, man. This is my first time in London. It's an amazing thing. It's an incredible experience, man. Boston took us everywhere. So I'm grateful for my team and everything. I'm grateful to my advisor, Mike Burrell. I'm a motherly developer. Of course, I'm grateful to Frank Warren and his team for giving me the opportunity. But I knew they were going to have to make the fight at one point in time. But I was kind of upset that it took so long. It still took a long. I still haven't signed the contract, honestly.
And what do you know about Liam as a fighter, Alantez? Because in my opinion, he really does have the potential, again, in my opinion, to become a future world champion. I believe he's a real talent.
I don't want to knock what you said, because that's great. I just, I think every fighter has the potential to be there, but I don't think this fight is going to be a super challenge for me. He's originally and probably really, and honestly and truly a junior middleweight contender. We seen him lose to Liam Smith, and everybody says it's controversial, but at the same time, if I got Liam Smith on my table, Liam Smith will turn me down. And if we did fight, I'd beat the crap out of Liam Smith. Liam Smith is the same guy that got stopped to a body, and he lost 2 fights to him. That's a jargon we've been going back and forth with. It's not really. I don't believe Liam Williams presents that much of a chance at all. I'm going to go in there and box my ass off, and stay on point. But, I'm not going to say I'm closer to the victory, but I'm going to try to dominate this fight as well.
And you mentioned there, Liam Williams, he's a small middleweight. Most of his success came at super welterweight. And even while, he's been campaigning at middleweight, he's actually said repeatedly that he can still make 154. He can still go back down. But of course, yourself, standing at 6'4" and a bit, you're huge for middleweight. I'm guessing the jab will be the key punch for you in this one.
Yeah, I watched some of his his previous fights, he's jabs like it's nothing. Like, you know, from fighters way less sharp as I am. You know, so if he can get past my jab, we might get some more. But I'm probably gonna eat him alive with my jab. Probably cut him up. You know, it's gonna be bad. Really, I'm gonna make sure this is outclassing. This is me completely dominating the entire time it lasts. Let me say that.
And you mentioned, again, obviously it's taking place in the UK, December 21st at the Copperbox Arena in London. So you said it's your first time in London. Have you never been to the UK before then, Alantez, no?
Never been to the UK. It's incredible, man. I'm more excited about the trip and being over and fighting in front of the UK fans than I am about this fight, I believe.
And of course, I've always got to mention your brother Mykal. He boxes this weekend against John Arellano in Philly. How's Mike getting on?
Man, he's good, man. He's just cutting the weight this week, man. He's gonna win in the strong 142, and he's looking sharp as always. I think he's gonna dominate this performance too. You know, this guy. It's funny because we look at these guys, and I think Liam was what, 6'1"? Is he about 6 feet?
I don't even think he's that tall, to be honest.
Oh man, so that's crazy. But the guy that Mike's fighting is like 6'1", but he comes in with this typical Mexican pressure style, and he gets hit with a lot of punches. And Michael Fox is accurate as hell, so it's gonna be a really bad. It might be a short night just from him beating this guy's face.
And I'm guessing you'll be in Philly for your brother's fight.
Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely going out. We'll ride up Thursday. Thursday will be the weigh-in, so we'll ride up that day, and then Friday will be the fight.
And Mike will be coming out to London with you as well?
Absolutely. We got a few people coming out. It'll be me, I think my mother's going to make the trip. My father, of course, my assistant disc coach, Coach D'Angelo Kennard, my cut man, Reggie. I think even my teammate Greg Outlaw is coming as well.
Oh, great, man. Great. And have you kind of, looked at when you're looking to arrive? Obviously, you want to arrive with enough time to acclimatise. The weather's going to be freezing cold.
It's going to be... Oh, shit, man. That means I'm going to go buy a new coat for real. Man, yeah, we're supposed to be coming either Sunday, I think Sunday or Monday, one or the other.
Okay.
The 15th or the 16th.
Okay, yeah, you want to definitely give yourself a bit of time. I think the time difference about 5 hours, something like that, with 5 hours in front. So
you guys are 5 hours in front, yeah.
Okay, cool. And as it's happening this Saturday, Alantez, I want to get your prediction on the rematch in Saudi Arabia. How do you see it playing out? Joshua Ruiz, the rematch.
I'm going with Andy Ruiz, man. I'm going with the Mexican American. And I honestly believe his style is too busy for Anthony Joshua. Like Joshua knocked him down and everything, but it seemed like once Anthony Ruiz picked up the pace, it overwhelmed Anthony Joshua. Even though Anthony Joshua has power and he has some skill, it seemed like he wasn't ready for what Anthony Ruiz presents. At the same time, I love to see a trilogy. So if Anthony Joshua wins, that'd be incredible. I love to see the trilogy between them. It was an incredible. I think we were 6 rounds for the first fight. I mean, I don't know how long the second fight might go, but you probably gonna have a good 6 rounds in this fight, and then you might get a third, and the third would be great as well.
Absolutely. We're all going to be, of course, watching that one. And as it's the month of December, Alantez, you're the first person I'm asking this question. Every December, everyone that I speak to in December every year, I ask them, what is on your wish list in a realistic world for the following year? So for 2020 for you, of course, you had your big shot at Demetrius Andrade. The fight didn't go the way you hoped it'd go. You got an injury in the fight.
At all.
You got an injury in the fight. This chance here against Liam Williams, this is a fight where you can really get yourself on the map in the UK. Obviously, a lot of hardcore boxing fans know who you are, but the casuals are going to find out who you are when you put on a great performance. What can happen for you in 2020 in a realistic world?
In a realistic world, we're getting that shot right back at Demetrius Andrade, and we're going to be world champions in 2020, man. And then, after that, man, it doesn't stop. The work doesn't stop. I'm trying to be undisputed world champion. So If they want to let me get a Triple G, they want to let me get a Canelo, I would love to take both. I would love to take all of those. Even a Charlie, I'd love to take any of those belts, man. I believe there should be one champion. I believe that face should be me. You know, Demetrius Andrade is a very good fighter. I won't take anything from him, but I don't believe that he's better than me at 100%.
Okay. Well, like I say, that stuff can happen. A brilliant win here sets up those big fights, and like I say, the performance you put on is so important because how you do it, how you win. If you dominate, again, this is stuff that you know. But if you look good here, people are going to be calling for these fights. It's not just going to be yourself and your team. People are going to be saying, "Hey, I want to see him in there again." You know, with the big fighters. So just finally, Alantez, if you've got any closing words to your UK supporters, I'm sure the media are all going to be all over you when you get over here. I feel quite lucky to get you the first British outlet.
That's because you're my guy. You're my guy, Joey. You're definitely my guy. But some closing words, man. Keep watching, man. ESPN Plus on December 21st. I'm more trying this guy, man. It's Alantez Fox. You want to follow me on social media? It's SLYAZAFOX. Again, that's SLYAZAFOX. And this message has been brought to you by the Keep Calm and Jab Boxing Group, the KCJBG. I just think we're about to put on a hell of a performance, man. I can't wait to come to UK, man. And, you know, I'm getting all these Twitter fingers, man, from the UK fans, man. I'm about to quiet everybody down.
Okay, listen, Alantez, it is always a pleasure catching up with you, my man. You know that. Best of luck for December 21st, and I'm sure that we'll catch up sometime after.
I appreciate that, Joey, man. I love BoxHard Podcast, man. It's amazing.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. No news once again. Let's dive straight into the preview part. Let's start here with a card that's happening later today at the Hangar in Costa Mesa, California, USA. Just one fight, or 2 fights actually to mention, 3 fights actually. Little shout out to Aaron McKenna, a young prospect coming through 9-0. He's in a 6-rounder against Victor Gaitan, who's 6-4. Jason Quigley, 16-1. He takes on Abraham Cordero, 13-4 with 2 draws. I think that could be Quigley's first fight back since his loss. Can't remember who he lost to now, but you know, it was an upset loss really. He needs to get back on track. Also on the bill, Yves Ulysse Jr, 18-1, a guy with a real bright future in my opinion. He's in a 12-rounder against Ishmael Barroso, 21-3 with 2 draws, obviously the former opponent of Anthony Crolla and Kevin Mitchell. That could be interesting. Yves Ulysse, a real good talent. Moving out now to the ICC Exhibition Centre in Sydney, New South Wales in Australia. One fight to mention over here, really, the son of Costa Tszyu, Tim Tszyu, 14-0. A bit of bad blood, actually, between him and his opponent, Jack Brubaker, who is 16-2 with 2 draws. That one for the IBF Australasian Super Welterweight title. That one tomorrow night. Also tomorrow night, friend of the show, we had his brother on earlier on, just a minute ago, actually, just a few minutes ago at the 2300 Arena in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, USA. Michael Fox, 21-1. He's in a 10-rounder against John Arellano, 10-1. Arellano, not a bad fighter, but he's been plagued really with inactivity. He's had a few spells out the ring. I think at one point he even took about 3 or 4 years out the ring. Moving out now to Canada at the Bell Centre in Montreal, Quebec. Over here we have, topping the bill, former world champion David Lemieux, 40-4. He's in a 10-rounder against Maxim Bursak. I think that was a guy who I believe was supposed to take on Billy Joe Saunders at one point, but the fight never happened. 35-5 with 2 draws there. 10 rounds, you'd expect Lemieux to be a bit too good really for Bursak. Moving out now to Mexico at the Auditorio GNP Seguros in Puebla. We have Emmanuel Navarrete, 29-1. Again, I spoke to Daniel Roman last week. He talked possibly about fighting someone like a Navarrete. Very big for the weight, Navarrete. It's for his WBO World Super Bantamweight title. He takes on Francisco Horta, who's 20-3 with 1 draw. On that undercard, Jerwin Ancajas, 31-1 with 2 draws, puts his IBF World Super Flyweight title on the line against Miguel Gonzalez, 32-1. Obviously over 12 rounds, both of those fights mentioned there. And now going out to the big one at the Diriyah Arena in Saudi Arabia. Let's start with the undercard here. Diego Pacheco, 7-0. He takes on Levan Shonia, 15-17. Mohamed Majidov, 1-0. He's in an 8-rounder against our very own Tom Little, 10-7. Obviously, Majidov, a real good amateur. A guy that I think he beat Anthony Joshua in the 2011 World Amateur Championships or whatever. Very good amateur, like I say. Been in there with some great fighters, the likes of Ivan Dyko, the likes of Roberto Camarelli, to name a few. I think he beat Dyko in the amateurs and lost to him. So he's really quite experienced as an amateur, but only had the one pro fight, and he takes on Tom Little, a guy that is a bit bigger than him as well in terms of stature. I see the face off. Tom Little a bit taller of the two there. And also on the bill, Dillian White, 26-1, a bit of a late addition to the bill since the Scott Quigg and John O'Carroll fight fell apart. He's in a 10-rounder against Marius Wack, 35-5 Marius Wack. Don't really see the point in that fight. I feel like Dillian White's recent opponents, like the likes of Oscar Rivas, stuff like that, Joseph Parker, even Derek Chisora, are all kind of higher up in terms of levels than Marius Wack. I think Marius Wack's last fight of note anyway was against Martin Bacoli, where he got stopped earlier this year. Just looking at it, he has actually had 2 fights since then. He's managed to knock 2 guys out that had losing records, and here he is against Dillian White. So I'm expecting Dillian White to get his opponent out of there. Also on the bill, Filip Hrgovic, the Olympic bronze medalist, 9-0. He takes on Eric Molina, 27-5. Molina, a friend of the show. That one's for the WBC International Heavyweight title. I'd like to see Molina do it, but to be honest, Hrgovic looks a little bit special. And now the 2 main fights on the bill. I'm starting with this one here before we get onto the main event. I'm going to come to you, Ayaz, here. Alexander Povetkin, 35-2, 12 rounds against Mykal the Bounty Hunter, 18-1. Of course, Mike, a big friend of the show. How do you see that one playing out?
I think it's going to be a very good fight, obviously, Mykal Hunter and Povetkin. Povetkin obviously is a bit old age now, but I'm going to go with him. I'm going to go with the younger man. So I'm going to go with Mykal Hunter to win by points.
Mykal Hunter on points. We've gone to the predictions on that, by the way, and our listeners have also gone with that. 40% of people saying Hunter on points, 34% that is saying Hunter by KO, Povetkin by KO 18%, and Povetkin on points just 8%. I think that could be because Mykal Hunter retweeted it and a lot of his followers and stuff decided to vote for him. But yeah, we're all in agreement there. A Hunter points win. It's a tough fight, I know that Mike is over the moon. He's wanted this fight for a long time. Povetkin, we still got to look at his record and say he's just beat Hughie Fury. He's a good fighter. He always has been. And his 2 losses have came to Vladimir Klitschko and to Anthony Joshua, 2 heavyweight world champions that can really punch and, were much bigger than him. Mykal Hunter is not much bigger than him. I think Mykal Hunter may even be slightly smaller, I think. And obviously he hasn't, he's been knocking people out, but he hasn't really got that power like Joshua, that power like Vladimir Klitschko once possessed. So if he can become the first man to beat Povetkin, who's not actually a world champion, that's a real big statement for Mykal Hunter. Even though Povetkin is up there in age, 39 I think, or maybe 40 years of age now, he is probably the toughest 40-year-old but possibly in the world, to be honest. Obviously, Luis Ortiz is in there for a shout as well. But yeah, it's a tough fight. Mike has got to be on his A game for every second of the fight, because we all know that Povetkin's got a lethal left hook, and if he lands that on anyone, they could go. So yeah, cannot wait for that fight. Really pulling for Mike to win it, of course. And the main event for the WBA, IBF, WBO and IBO World Heavyweight titles, Andy Ruiz Jr. I think he's still the underdog in this one, even though he's the champion. 33-1. He takes on Anthony Joshua, 22-1. We've been asking many people, many professional boxers and stuff like that on this show over the last few weeks who they believe is going to win. Now it's time for the two experts to give their opinion. I'm just joking. Ayaz, how do you see it playing out, Ruiz Joshua?
I think it's going to be a very good fight. I think it's going to be similar to the first one. I think Joshua is mentally still not right in the head from that first fight. Obviously, I've seen recently his conversations say, when I win, I'm gonna get everyone to bow down to me. Fuck everybody. Obviously, that mentality for me is just not right. I think it's reminding me when he fought Dillian White first fight, when Dillian White got under his skin. For me personally, I think if I'm going to go with a win, I'm going to go with Andy Ruiz to beat him again. I personally think that obviously with that Mexican style that Andy Ruiz fights, he's a come forward fighter. Obviously, when he drops down, he gets back up. He doesn't give up. I think Joshua looks a bit leaner. He's going to try and box him. I think Andy Ruiz is going to catch him out. I think Andy Ruiz is going to catch him out. That's when I think Andy Ruiz is going to stop him. So I think it's going to be similar to the first fight.
Ruiz to win by KO. Okay, I'm going to side with you, Ayaz. The listeners, the Twitter followers have gone with Joshua by KO, though, a whopping 59%. In second place, actually, it was joint second place. Ruiz by KO or Joshua on points, 19%, and only 3% back in Ruiz to win on points. Just quickly, I'm going to give my take here. I think that, you're right about Anthony Joshua perhaps going into the fight a little bit emotionally fueled. I mean, he still did beat Dillian White in good fashion. He stopped him. He got hurt once in the fight, but other than that, I wouldn't really sit here and say, he got under his skin and it worked against Anthony Joshua. It may have even worked for him, because no one has ever done that to Dillian White. But yeah, I mean, I see you dropped an F-bomb in there as well, but. I think Ruiz is going to come out in the first round. I think the first round is going to be very interesting. I think we're going to learn a lot from the first round. I think Anthony Joshua will try to keep it long, try to keep the distance. He has to. He's going to try to box. He's going to try to make it boring. But there is that thing in Anthony Joshua where I feel like deep inside him, he likes a tear up. I think he really could end up getting drawn into a slugfest, and that is where Ruiz's speed and Ruiz's power as well will be the difference if they start trading. So for me, I think that will happen. I think Joshua's going to come out and be a little bit sensible and really focused for the first couple of rounds. I think probably about round 4, round 5, round 6, somewhere in there. I think he will end up getting involved in a trade up, and I think he'll come off second best again. Because remember, that first fight, it wasn't close at all. Ruiz absolutely beat the hell out of him, and for that reason, it's not like it was close, it's not like it was competitive. Ruiz absolutely beat the hell out of him, and for that reason, I can't really give, or make a case for Anthony Joshua to win. I think if the pair are trading, Ruiz seems to get the better of it all the time. He's got a great chin, and that's what he wants to do. He wants to get inside and he wants to let his hands go. And I just don't know if Joshua can keep him off for a whole 12 rounds, really. So very interesting, very interesting. We're keeping it nice and short, this preview part of the show. Leaving Saudi Arabia there, moving now to Spain at the Polideportivo Vicente Trueba. Over here we have Kiko Martinez, former world champion, 39-9 with 2 draws. He's in a 10-rounder against Alexander Caceres, who is 16-10. Sergio Garcia tops the bill, though. He defends his EBU European Super Welterweight title, 30-0 his record. He takes on Fouad Al-Masoudi, who is 17-11. That's over 12 rounds there. And the final bill to mention at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York, USA. I believe it's being shown over here on Premier BS Sports or something like that. I think it's a subscription channel though, so we're going to have to stream this one if you don't have that already, that channel there. On that bill, we will get to see, this one's gone massively under the radar, by the way. Chris Eubank Jr. 28-2. He takes on Matty Korobov, 28-2 also, but he's got a draw. That one's for the interim WBA World Middleweight title over 12 rounds. For me, the smart money is on Matty Korobov, you know. Obviously, we remember the bad night for him in which he got stopped by Andy Lee, but if my memory serves me right, he was pretty much winning everything, and Andy Lee pulled out a shot from the gods. Obviously, he had the loss as well to Jamal Charlo, in which a lot of people felt he did enough to win, and most recently, that is where it's a bit strange. He got the draw against Emmanuel Alim, which I don't think many people thought would really be able to trouble him. And funny enough, Alim is also on this same card on Saturday night. But yeah, that majority draw that he had last time out is the only thing that's kind of making me think, hey, has he perhaps turned a little bit old overnight? You know, has he turned a little bit old overnight? He hasn't been the most active over the last few years either. And against someone like a Chris Eubank Jr. who can set a fast pace and really keep it up for the duration of the fight, it could get quite interesting. But again, the money, or the odds I should say, for Matty Korobov to win on points is very, very tempting if you check that one out. Unbelievable odds for me. They're really, really good odds. Chris Eubank Jr. again obviously can be outboxed by pure boxers, and that is, in my opinion, what Korobov is. Obviously, he's a southpaw as well. You know, I don't have to remind you, Billy Joe, you know, was having a lot of success with Chris Eubank Jr. I don't think Chris Eubank Jr. gets on too great against southpaws. Also on that bill, we should mention for the interim IBF World Super Bantamweight title, Marlon Tapales 33-2 takes on Ryosuke Iwasa 26-3 over 12 rounds. And topping the bill, the final fight to mention for the WBC World Middleweight crown, Jamal Charlo 29-0 takes on Dennis Hogan 28-2 with a draw over 12 rounds. Again, Dennis Hogan, a guy that I feel has really made a name for himself in the past 12 months, and that is probably because of the very close loss on paper to Jaime Munguia down at super welterweight, but he's moving up in weight for this one. He's moving from 154, moving up in weight. A lot of people felt he perhaps beat Munguia, and he didn't get the decision because it was actually in Mexico, I think, that fight, if I remember correctly. So the home fighter got perhaps a bit of a rub of the green there, but here he takes on Jamal Charlo. Jamal Charlo, you know, it's going to be a lot bigger than him, I'd imagine, when they're stood next to each other. Also, Hogan's other loss came to Jack Corkeye, which doesn't really look that great when you're taking on someone like a Charlo. It's his time to shine just before the year is out. But that is about everything for the preview part of the show. We tried to whiz through that as quick as possible. The final thing to do, of course, as always, is to welcome our second and final guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the undefeated lightweight prospect. It is, of course, Mr. George Kambosos Jr. George, welcome to the show.
It's a pleasure to be on. I think I'm going to have to change that prospect to contender because we're very close to that world title now. So I think we can officially start calling me a contender now.
Contender, my apologies. So George, it's obviously the first time you've been on this show. You've compiled a record thus far of 17-0, 10 of them quick. But tell our listeners just a little bit about yourself. You know, the man behind the gloves.
Look, the record speaks for itself. You know, I mean, I'm very highly rated. I'm rated number 3 in the IBF, number 5 in the WBO. But look, the man behind the gloves, you know, I mean, is a warrior, you know, blood and guts warrior. I love to fight. You know, I mean, all action. And look, I'm a family man as well. I've got 2 kids, huge fan base. I'm a people of the fans and love the support from the people. So, you know, I mean, I've got a lot of things going on in my career, and I mean, come December 14th, the next big fight. Be very, very excited to showcase, you know, what we've been doing in the gym and what we're all about again.
And of course, it's been well documented that you've played quite an integral part in Manny Pacquiao's training camps for fights. How did that come around, and what's it like being able to work with a legend like Manny?
Yeah, look, over 250 rounds with Pacquiao. It's incredible for my career and the amount of knowledge I've gained in them rounds. It all started back in 2016 when I was taking on Brandon Ogilvie, who was formerly world rated number 9 and was the number 1 in Australia. I was in the US sparring and getting some really good work and sparring guys like Sergey Lipinets and Andrei Klimov, which a lot of fans will know who they are. Yeah. I was doing real good sparring, and the call came saying, look, there might be a possibility for you to do some work with Pacquiao. Would you be keen? I go, hell yeah, this is the opportunity of a lifetime, of course. At that stage, he was fighting Vargas, so the height-wise didn't really fit, but it was the start of obviously showcasing myself. When I went back there for another fight camp, I was actually sparring Jose Ramirez, who's the current champ at the moment, and Ray Beltran, a former sparring partner of Pacquiao. And I was doing 5 rounds with each, 10 rounds in total, at Freddie's famous wildcard gym. Once they saw how I was sparring and what I possessed, the offer was there, and they said, look, he's fighting another Australian, Jeff Horn. How do you feel about coming over? We want you in camp. Then obviously I went and had my fight, done the business, and a couple of weeks later I was in the Philippines in the ring with Pacquiao, the legendary Manny Pacquiao, a guy that I looked up to, and I watched all his fights as a young kid. I had all his fights on DVD, and I sit there at night, watching that stuff religiously, seeing what he does, and to be in the ring with him and seeing them small little movements and all the stuff that I watched him, take out all these legendary fighters. He was trying to do it against me, and it was awesome. After that first camp, to get called back again 2 camps later and obviously fighting his undercards as well, it really shows what we're doing in our career and where we're heading. And you mentioned there, you helped him prepare for the Jeff Horn fight. How did that go down well? Or did that go down well with the Aussies back home? Look, it was a 50-50. A few Aussies, on Jeff's team as well, they weren't really happy about it. But look, I didn't really know Jeff. I had nothing to do with him. And obviously we're all doing our own thing. I was in the US preparing. I've always pretty much prepared all my fights in America now, and had nothing to do with me. I was there helping, a legend, opening up doors for myself and creating opportunities. So, it was good. And who did you think won that fight, by the way? Look, I had to go with Pacquiao. Pacquiao was the champion. He had the belt. Them close rounds, they go to Pacquiao. So it was a good fight. Don't get me wrong. It was Jeff Horn's performance of a lifetime. Definitely. But I think in that camp we kind of overtrained as well. People thought we didn't train as hard. We actually overtrained. Manny's wasn't a young fighter as he once was. So he learned in that camp and in that fight where he needed to rest, needed to take time and then do things different and approach things differently from what he'd done in the past. And it was a good learning curve. He changed a lot of things in the Matisse camp and obviously in the Broner camp. And for myself, as a young fighter, trying to reach the top and being around that, seeing how world champion, an all-time great, who's got everything in boxing, got millions of dollars and so many world titles and world famous, to see how he reacted coming back and being in that camp and being his main sparring partner again, seeing how a guy lifts himself up after a loss, it was incredible and very, very beneficial for myself. And of course, you're promotionally with Lou DiBella, obviously based in the States at the minute. Obviously, you turned pro though in Australia. So are you living in the States now, and what's it like to be promoted by Lou? I live in Australia, but I prepare in the US. I'm actually currently in Miami, training under Javier Centeno, very, very good coach. And I've always, been doing this for the last probably 6-7 fights. Everything's been in the US. I always planned as a young fighter coming through when I first turned pro, I want to have my certain amount of fights in Australia, do what I had to do, gain the experience I had to gain, and then come to the US and crack the US and get signed by a promoter. And that all happened. Obviously got signed with Lou DiBella, who's a fantastic promoter, and obviously big news came out yesterday where he's getting inducted into the 2020 Hall of Fame, which is incredible. I spent a lot of good time with Lou outside of boxing as well. And, I'm very, very happy to have a promoter like that supporting me and pushing me to the right direction of becoming a world champion. This next fight, obviously it's promoted by Top Rank and in association with the Bella. So we've got a lot of good signs and a lot of good, a lot of good talk, behind the scenes about everything in our career and how we're heading.
And of course, you mentioned your next fight takes place December 14th on the Crawford-Kavaliauskas undercard at the Madison Square Garden. You'll box the former IBF lightweight world champion Mickey Bey. What do you know about Mickey, George?
Look, Mickey Bey's former world champion, very experienced guy, been around the game a long time. He's been at the top where I'm trying to get to. He's had that title where I'm trying to get. So we picked him. We chased our former world champion. We wanted a top 5 guy or a former world champion. A few guys turned the fights down. We looked like, we weren't going to get what we wanted. And all of a sudden, Mickey Bey's name popped up. And we jumped. We said, yep, Mickey Bey's name popped up. We picking you. Let's go. And to his credit, he said, yep, I want this fight. He feels like he's the old bull. I'm the young bull. It's a very, very interesting fight for both of us. A lot on the line for both of us, and I'm fully prepared for Mickey Bey. And he's got a very good boxing style. He likes to move, but he does like to come forward and throw some punches when you engage him. Whatever he brings to the table, we're fully prepared. We're ready. I've seen this style before. I've sparred with over 20 world champions and former world champions. So, his mantle of being a former world champion doesn't affect me one bit. For myself, it's just another man standing in front of me, and I look forward to having a name like that on my record and showcasing the public in America and around the world watching what we're about and why we're talked about with different guys, and we're coming very close to a title fight.
Yeah, Mickey Bey, a guy who was, flying high under Mayweather's guidance. He picked up his world title. He lost it to Barthélemy, which there's no real shame in doing that. But since then, he's almost kind of gone missing. I know he had some troubles outside of the ring. I think he's only had one fight in the last 3.5 years, but it was a win. So it's an interesting one. It's a crossroads fight. And like you say, you're 100% right. A win here, is a brilliant name for your resume. Do you anticipate it will be the toughest fight of your career thus far?
Look, he's a former world champion, so this is the biggest name, that I'm coming up against. He hasn't fought, I think it's in 2 years, but I don't take any of that into consideration. He could have had 100 fights in the last year. I'm prepared for the best Mickey Bey coming. All the tapes I've seen, I'm looking at the best possible Mickey Bey coming for this fight. And I've prepared 110%. I always do. I've never left no stone unturned. And that's what we want. We want a name. We want a good name. We want to showcase ourselves. I'm fighting at Madison Square Garden. I'm the Australian fighter who's come from the local, club shows where 200 people would come out and watch me fight at the start of my career. I'm all the way here, and I'm just excited. I'm excited to put on a great show. To showcase the world, showcase America, what we're about. This is the name that I've wanted. This is the name that I've chased. A former world champion. We finally got him, and now we just got to put it all together, which we will.
And, you mentioned you're ranked with the IBF and WBO, number 3 with the IBF, number 5 with the WBO. The IBF champion, Richard Commey, is also defending his belt on the same card, the same night, against friend of this show, actually, Teofimo Lopez. How do you see that fight playing out? That's a brilliant fight.
Look, it's a great fight, and obviously I'm the highest rated contender to that title. So that's the reason why I'm on that card as well. They want to showcase the next guy coming through. It's a great fight. Commey's a come forward, strong kind of guy. I was actually live in attendance when he fought Ray Beltran. Lou DiBella flew me in to Pechanga Casino all the way from Australia, and I was there. Strong guy, but there are a lot of holes in his game. He's not a boxer. He can be outboxed, and Teofimo can box, but can be hit as well. So it's a very interesting matchup. I believe if Teofimo can take the onslaught and take the shots, he should get away with a points decision if it goes all the way to points. I can't see him knocking out Commey, but again, it's a fight game. You never know. It's a very interesting fight, and obviously I'm looking forward to doing my business first against Mickey Bey, then sitting back, ringside and watching, who's next. Either they go to Lomachenko. This is the plan. They either go to Lomachenko or they got to come to me. I've got to do my business against Mickey Bey, and I'm fully focused on him. But they have two options after that.
Yeah, I mean, get your fight out of the way, have the quickest shower ever, and get straight back to your seat. I'm sure you will.
Of course, yeah, we will be.
Obviously, you know, the other champion that you're rated with, the WBO, Vasyl Lomachenko. Now, to myself and many others, he looks incredible. I mean, possibly one of the greatest fighters, dare I say, to ever grace the sport of boxing. But do you look at him and say, I can beat this guy, you know? What do you see?
Well, look, Lomachenko is incredible. You know, I mean, he's a wizard. He moves fantastic. He's got a great output of punches and different ranges and levels. I mean, but he has been put down. He got put down by an aging Linares. Now, if anyone's going to give Lomachenko trouble, it's a guy that's been in with one of the all-time great southpaws. I mean, a guy that sparred 250 rounds with probably the best southpaw ever in Pacquiao. Now, Lomachenko moves well. Do 250 rounds with Pacquiao and see how good you can time and catch someone coming in so awkward. Yeah, you see the way I fight. I'm very, very explosive. I'm very powerful. I'm very, very fast. And I move very, very good too. So it's a very, very interesting fight if that fight does eventuate. And I know there was a bit of talk from Bob Arum a couple of months ago. He was excited to possibly do that in Australia. I mean, it all comes down to me. I'm fully focused on Mickey Bay. I mean, the statement I make against Mickey Bay can change the tables, and Bob could change his mind and say, you know what, no, we're going to go do this in front of 50, 60,000 Australians in a stadium because that's all we can do. That's the numbers we can do in Australia easily. But look, you know, respect to him. He's got the belts. He's your number 1 or 2 or 3 pound for pound in the world. I mean, 2-time Olympic gold medalist. You know, you respect that. I'm a fighter, and I respect, you know, the achievements and accolades of other fighters. So, I mean, if it does come to the table and it's there, I'll take it with both hands, and I'm very confident I can win that fight.
And every December, everyone I interview in the month of December, I like to ask what is on your wish list in terms of your boxing career for the following year. So 2020, I want to ask you, George, what is on your wish list? What can happen in a realistic world? I guess the answer, though, is a world title.
Yeah, that's not the wish list. That's the goal. That's what's coming. First, Mickey Bay, end the year on a big high, and then 2020. You know, the first half of 2020, there's going to be a title shot.
Absolutely. And just the final real question for you. I'm asking everyone this as well. We're only a couple of days away now, George. Joshua versus Ruiz, the rematch. How do you see it playing out?
It's a very interesting fight. I change my mind every day. I think to myself, okay, Ruiz is going to get him. He's got his number. Then I see some stuff on Joshua. Joshua's going to outbox him. He's going to show, you know, that true champion about himself. I'm changing my mind every day. You know what? Today you got me on a Joshua day. I think Joshua's just going to outbox him, and he's going to look good. And I think they're going to go one apiece and going to open up that trilogy. I mean, why not? More money, you know, more entertainment and more, you know, exposure to the boxing world. Why not? Let him go again after this.
Okie dokie. And just finally, if you've got any closing words just for our listeners, George, if you want to give out perhaps your social media handles where people can follow you, anything you want to say just before I let you go.
Well, obviously, I know you guys are a UK-based podcast, and obviously I've got a few UK fans that have been messaging me on social media, on my Instagram, George Kambosos Jr, and my Facebook page, Ferocious Kambosos Jr. You know, I mean, I appreciate all your support, and it's just going to get bigger and better. I mean, December 14th, you're going to see the best version of George Kambosos, you know, I mean, that anyone's ever seen, and we look forward to making a very big statement against a former world champion and pushing towards that big world title fight in 2020.
Absolutely well said. Listen, George, it has been a real delight and a pleasure speaking with you, my friend. Best of luck for December 14th, and I hope that we can catch up again sometime in the new year.
Definitely, it's been a pleasure, and I'm sure we will catch up and chat about our great win and what's next to come. Thank you.
Okay, and this wraps up episode 216 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Ayaz Sumra has been Ayaz Sumra. A massive thank you to our two guests on this week's show, the top middleweight contender Alantez Fox and the undefeated lightweight contender Mr. George Kambosos Jr. You may or may not have seen it, but I've created a video on YouTube. I've posted it on Twitter and stuff like that. It's basically a video that contains 18 different boxers giving their predictions for the Anthony Joshua versus Andy Andy Ruiz rematch. So perhaps check that one out. Unless you listen to every week's podcast, then you've probably listened to them all because they've all been snipped from recent interviews. I've just compiled them all together into one video that took me about 2 days to make. But yeah. Those predictions didn't include the 2 guests that we've had on this week's show giving their predictions, so it's 18 other boxers. So perhaps check it out if you want. They've all been snipped from recent interviews, like I say. The Prediction League is back this week. Best of luck with that. But that is about everything from myself and Ayaz. Thank you all for listening. Enjoy your weekends, people, and we shall see you all again next week.